The 2020 race officially begins as Elizabeth Warren announces her intentions to run for president. We will take an early look around the campaign trail of tears. Then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spends her Christmas vacation attacking little old me on Twitter. What did I ever do? Future fake Republican Senator Mitt Romney kicks off 2019 by attacking President Trump, and the New York Times makes a surprisingly conservative pick for the Song of the Year. I'm Michael Knowles, and this is The Michael Knowles Show. So much to get to. Happy New Year. We've got to fly through it today. But first, let's make a little bit of money. Let's give ourselves all a little Christmas present with Boll and Branch. Boll and Branch sheets are phenomenal. Getting a great night's sleep is easier and more affordable than you think. You don't need a new expensive mattress or sleeping pills. You just need to change your sheets. That's why you should check out Boll and Branch. Everything they make, from bedding to blankets, is from 100% organic cotton. Means it starts out super soft and gets softer over time. You know, I spend 90 to 97% of my life lying in bed, and Boll and Branch sheets make it so nice. Luxury sheets can cost $1,000. These, because they cut out the middleman, you can get them for just a couple $100. Everyone who tries Boll and Branch loves them. They have thousands of 5-star reviews. Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Fast Company are all talking about it. 3 U.S. presidents sleep on Boll and Branch sheets. Shipping is free. You can try them for 30 nights. If you don't love them, you will get a refund, but you will love them, so you won't need a refund. To get started right now, my listeners get $50 off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com. Promo code Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L. Take yourself into what it's like to be in my boudoir. Get these Boll and Branch sheets. Go to bollandbranch.com today. $50 off your first set of sheets. B-O-L-L and branch.com. Promo code Michael. bollandbranch.com. Promo code Michael. 2020 has already begun. I feel like 2019 wasn't even here. It just passed in the blink of an eye. Now we're back in 2020 because Liz Warren has kicked off the 2020 presidential race. Here she is.
In our country, if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to take care of yourself and the people you love. That's a fundamental promise of America. A promise that should be true for everyone. Growing up in Oklahoma, that promise came through for me and my family. After my older brothers joined the military and I was still just a kid, my daddy had a heart attack and couldn't work. My mom found a minimum wage job at Sears, and that job saved our house and our family. My daddy ended up as a janitor, but he raised a daughter who got to be a public school teacher, a law professor, and a senator.
Elizabeth Warren got to, was there something about she was raised by people who didn't have a lot of money, and then she got to become a senator. And now, most importantly, she gets to run for president and complain about how terrible that wonderful country is that gave her everything that she has, and let someone begin at very modest circumstances in life and rise to become a U.S. senator. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get Hillary Clinton 2.0. Hillary Clinton was a Hillary Clinton 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's going to be the race. She's running the same playbook, hard, trying to appeal to suburban people, trying to appeal to, well, really her only appeal, I think, and this is what's really going to hurt her, is that her only appeal is to defeat white liberals, especially women, I guess. But it's so narrow. Her appeal doesn't really reach that far. Her main issue here, as you see in this opening, is income inequality. And income inequality as a campaign issue really means envy. That's all it means. It just means envy. It just means someone has more than I have, and I want to have what they have, and I want them to have less than they have, because that, I guess, will mean that I have more. It's not really about everyone having more wealth. It's not about poor people having more wealth. It's not about the middle class having more wealth. It's about the rich having less wealth, because that's how income inequality works. Whenever anyone talks about income inequality, you see everybody is increasing in wealth. GDP is increasing, but the wealthy are getting more wealth relative to the poor people, according to her premise. But she's not talking about how the poor are getting wealthier. She's just talking about how awful it is that the rich are getting wealthier at a faster rate than the poor are getting wealthier. So this is going to be her issue. I don't think it's really a winning issue. Maybe if the economy totally tanks, it'll get some traction. But as a campaign issue, the 2020 campaign is not going to be about what we would consider traditional political issues. The 2020 race is going to be about identity. It's going to be about identity politics. This is because, so far, that we're not going to see a primary contest for the Republicans. We're only going to see the primary on the left for the Democrats. And they don't have issues. They don't have unifying issues. They might have little pet issues here and there, the Green New Deal or health care or income inequality, but there's no unifying issue. And because their entire politics now is predicated on identity, on intersectionality, on I'm more of a woman, I'm more of an ethnic minority, I'm more of an oppressed victim group. That's all that this is going to be. And this is going to kill Warren in particular because if the race is about identity, she loses on what her actual identity is, which is a privileged old white woman, and she loses on her fake identity because she pretends to be a Native American when she's not. She's already basically toast because of this issue. Here is Warren announcing her presidential intentions, and she's being interviewed. This is on CNN, and she has to dodge the question about her identity.
What's your message to the Democratic primary voter who says, I love where Senator Warren stands on the issues, but I worry about electability. I worry about a campaign more about Native American ancestry than the middle class?
You know, look, I'm in this fight because I understand what's happening to working families. I grew up in a paycheck-to-paycheck family, and my big chance was a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. I run for office because I'm grateful down to my toes for the opportunities that were given to me, and I am determined that we will give those same opportunities, not just to some of our kids, but to all of our kids. I think when we fight for something positive, for something big, when we show, not just tell, but show what Democrats will get out there and make happen, I think that's how we win.
So that's the giant elephant in the room, as they say. What do you say to people who like you, who like your policy ideas, who like that you're a big liberal and a big left-winger, but they say you're not electable because you're a fraud and you lied about your Native American ancestry for decades to advance your career, and now you got called out on it and you don't have a good answer. And she doesn't have a good answer. She doesn't answer that. She pivots and says, well, we're going to talk about hard Scrabble. Well, I'm so grateful. I'm blah, blah, blah. But she doesn't have an answer. She doesn't have an answer. She's had months to come up with an answer. She's had years to come up with an answer. This issue has plagued her now since what, 2012, 2014? And now President Trump, at least for 2 years, over 2 years, has been calling her Pocahontas. If she had an answer on it, she would have come up with it before she announced her intentions to run for president. But she doesn't, and this isn't about Republican versus Democrat or right versus left. The left itself, the Democrat Party, is going to do a much better job than we would ever do of attacking Liz Warren over this issue. And they'll do a better job, one, because they have an incentive to do it. You're going to have a lot of people vying for that presidential nomination, and this is her weak point, and they're going to attack her for it. But two, identity politics matters much more to the left than it does to us. When we talk about identity politics on the right, we usually joke about it. We joke about Pocahontas or Ocasio-Cortez or whatever, pretending to be something that they're not. But we're kind of laughing. We don't really care. It's just kind of a stupid line that they've used, and it's stupid for them to even care about it so much. It's stupid to pretend to be a victim. It's stupid to want to be a victim. I don't want to be a victim. I want to be a winner. It's stupid to gripe about privilege. I want privilege. I want more privilege. Give me all the privilege I can have. I want my family and my friends to have privileges. I want everybody to have privileges, and they all already do. They were born in, and they live in, the greatest country in the world at the greatest time of peace and prosperity in all of human history. So that's a good thing. We shouldn't whine about that or complain. When the left talks about it, though, they're really earnest. It really matters to them. And so she doesn't have that answer. Okay, that's going to hurt her. What people are not talking about, though, is she has this other liability, which is she's even a fraud about the bootstrap stuff. So, okay, she obviously now is in much better financial circumstances than she was when she was raised and brought up. But this whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps, I went to a commuter college and I paid my own way through life, is simply not true. Elizabeth Warren, a lot of people don't know this. Elizabeth Warren married her high school sweetheart. She had 2 kids with her high school sweetheart. Her hubby put her through college. Her hubby put her through law school. And then when she got a job at the University of Houston Law Center, she met a visiting professor named Bruce Mann. She instantly divorced her husband. This was a quickie divorce, not even she made the decision quickly to divorce him. The divorce was over within 73 days. She divorces her husband, who put her through law school, the father of her 2 children, within 73 days, and 6 months later, she's married to this visiting professor that she met at law school, her old colleague at the University of Houston Law Center. This is a major sex scandal. We'll get to sex scandals a little bit later when we talk about Mitt Romney's prattling on and moral narrow-mindedness and moral idiocy in many ways. But this is a major sex scandal. And people haven't brought it up yet. They will. The left will bring this up. Democrats will bring this up. And we know Liz Warren is nervous about this because she's tried to change the story. So it's variously been reported that she actually got divorced in 1978, and it was actually 2 years before she remarried her husband. Court records show that isn't true, that she was actually divorced in 1980. Why haven't we heard about this before? In part, it's because her ex-husband, Jim Warren, died in 2003. So he's not been around for her political career. He's not been around to give his side of the story. They will bring this up. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Hillary, whoever's going to run is going to bring this up. And she's going to have to answer for it because let's say, I mean, the big issue is her Native American lying about her ancestry to push her career. That's the big issue with the identity politics. But this bootstrapping stuff, what is tantamount to a sex scandal, is going to be the one that I think finishes her off. And if this is the first you're hearing about it, I guarantee you this will not be the last. The identity politics, by the way, is now also swinging back around and hitting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I spent one wild night tweeting with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I was living rent-free in her head for a day. We will get to that in a second. But first, let's make some more money with Ring. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. Today, over 1 million people use the amazing Ring video doorbell to help protect their homes. Ring knows that home security begins at the front door, but it does not end at the front door. So now they're extending that same level of security to the rest of your home with the Ring Floodlight Cam. Just like Ring's amazing doorbell, the Floodlight camera is a motion-activated camera, and the floodlight that connects directly to your phone with HD video, two-way audio, lets you know the moment anyone steps onto your property. So this is very cool. You can see and speak to visitors, even set off an alarm right from your phone. That's whether you're in the house or maybe you're on a beach in Boca or who knows where, you can talk to them. It's two-way. You can upload it straight to the cloud. So if they steal your doorbell, you already have the video. You can find who stole it. It's really, really good. I love mine. I have given this to friends. It is just excellent. It's the ultimate in home security. Save up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit when you go to ring.com/Knowles, Knowles, ring.com/Knowles, Knowles. What is it? ring.com/Knowles. I had a wild time with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez over my Christmas break. We haven't been on the air now in over a week. I flew down after Christmas. I was down in Florida, and I was just there with some friends. We were hanging around. Being slightly to the right of Attila the Hun, I was exclusively referring to this time as #Beach Week, in reference to Brett Kavanaugh's beach excursions with his pals in high school. And I got this shirt it was Brett Kavanaugh holding a beer at his confirmation hearing, through Photoshop, and it said, "Still like beer." I was just living in my own conservative bubble. I was thinking, gosh, nothing could get better than this. I'm having martinis. I'm sitting in the sun. I thought, there's no way that Christmas could get any better than this. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gave me such a wonderful Christmas gift. I haven't thanked her publicly for it, but I really have to thank her for it. She tweeted out